بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين صدق الله العظيم. Respected listeners, last night we were speaking about the concept of forgiveness of sins, wiping away of sins through doing good deeds. And last night I left one of the stories short and I jumped to another topic. So I was mentioning about the young man who came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I was involved with a woman and I committed a sin. I did something which was inappropriate. What should I do now, Ya Rasulullah? What is the way forward for me? How can I clean myself and purify myself from the situation that I've got myself into? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told this Sahabi radiallahu anhu, I will wait for the revelation to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I won't answer you right away. What is your tawbah? What is the means for your purification? How can you become clean from what you have committed? We will wait for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inform. And a short while later, the ayat were revealed. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِّنَ اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. Establish the salah. Establish the prayer, right? The greatest of good deeds. One of the greatest goods that you could do is the salah. Establish the salah at the two ends of the day. وَزُلَفًا مِّنَ اللَّيْلِ, and portions from the night. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Good deeds, they do away with bad deeds. And subhanallah, this Sahabi radiallahu anhu, he was so happy and so overjoyed that alhamdulillah, Allah has made a way out for him. And he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ali khasatan am linnasi jami'a? Or kama qal as-sahabi al-jalil radiyallahu anhu. He said, Ya Rasulullah, is this specifically for me or is this for everybody? This ruling that by doing good deeds, by performing salah, my sins will be forgiven. I will be freed from the sin which I had committed. Is this specifically for me? Did Allah reveal this only for me? Or is this the ruling that is for every Muslim? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, this is for the entire ummah. This is not just for you. This mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, this is for the whole ummah. This is not specific to you. And subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, we were on this ayat last night, and then last night we also read Surah Yusuf. And subhanallah, all of these verses, they're so correlated. They're so close to each other in their meanings and in their messages and in their lessons. So inshallah, we're going to go into Surah Yusuf as well, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the ahsanul qasas, the greatest of stories in Surah Yusuf. And subhanallah, what beautiful lessons we can derive from what a great man Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, who he was and how he stood for what he believed in. And inshallah, I'm just going to mention one or 2 points about Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, and in specific, the story when he was tempted, when he was seduced by Zulaykha, by the woman in the palace. وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك. The woman from the palace, what did she do? She seduced and she tempted Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam against his will. وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ She locked all of the doors of the palace. وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ And she said, come. She called Yusuf alayhi salam. Now remember a few points, respected listeners, about Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. At this point in his life, he's not an old man. He is a young man who's in the prime and the peak of his youth. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he's not a resident of that city, he is a traveler. When a person is away from home, you can get away with certain things. You're away from your family, you're away from people that you know. You can be secretive and do this and do that. Yusuf alayhi salam, he was a traveler. The woman who was seducing him, she was not some low-life woman. She was a woman of the palace, a woman who was dignified, a woman who had lots of status, lots of money, lots of wealth and lots of beauty. She was calling Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. Now imagine, all of these temptations, all of these obstacles, they were against Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And I want us to pay attention. The first thing Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, what did he say? The first words that came out of his mouth is Ma'ad Allah. Ma'ad Allah. I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal. One important thing that we must learn, respected listeners, is that the solution to being strong on our deen, it's not always up to yourself. You have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to ask Allah to strengthen you. You have to beg Allah to strengthen you. You have to beseech, you have to beg, you have to cry. Ya Allah, keep me steadfast on my deen. Ya Allah, keep me pure with every environment and evil that's calling me. Ya Allah, keep my feet firm and steadfast. And the next thing that Yusuf alayhi salam said, words that are worthy of being written in gold. What did he say in the verse? He says, first he says, قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَايَ Indeed, my Lord has taken good care of me. My Lord has taken care of my accommodations very, very well. In other words, when Yusuf alayhi salam is tempted, the first thing he remembers is Allah's bounty on him. Where was I before this? Before I had this spot in the palace, where was I? I was stuck inside the middle of a well. I didn't know if I was going to live. I didn't know if I was going to survive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took me out of that well. Allah gave me a second chance. Allah gave me another life. From those difficult conditions, Allah put me into the palace of the king. Allah Azza wa Jal has taken great care of me. How can I now disobey Him? Subhanallah. Respected brothers and sisters, let us develop this attitude. When you are tempted with something, remind yourself what Allah has done for you. Allah gave me these eyes. I could have been blind. How can I use these eyes in His disobedience? Allah gave me this money. Allah gave me a job. Allah gave me this sustenance. How can I use this now in His disobedience? He's my Allah. He's my caretaker. He's the one that looked after me. How can I now turn my back on Him? Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya. And last, respected listeners, in the verse which Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he's talking about, this temptation that he was put into. And what does he say? He says, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. He says, oh my Lord, because they threatened him, either you do this action or you're going to be put into jail. That was the other obstacle that was against Yusuf alayhi salam. Right? Forget about a message or a temptation. No, they said you better do this or else you're going to be put in jail. What did Yusuf alayhi salam say? He said, oh my Lord, the jail is more beloved to me than that which they call me towards. Jail is more beloved to me. Suffering in prison is more beloved to me. lacking in food and water is more beloved to me. Ya Allah, your disobedience, that's something that I cannot tolerate. That's something that I will not go towards. You have been too kind to me, Ya Allah. You've been too nice to me, Ya Allah. You've blessed me with too much, Ya Allah. The prison, that's easy for me. But to disobey you, that is too much for me to handle. Respected listeners, this was the taqwa and the iman of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And eventually what happened? وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. We all know the story, we're not going to go into the details. How much honor and izzah Allah granted Yusuf alayhi salam after that. All of it was on account of his taqwa. All of that was on account of how he loved and feared Allah in his private moments. Respect. Overwhelming on my life. Ya Allah, I can do anything but I can't disobey you. This is the attitude that we must develop. And respected listeners, if we ever commit a mistake, if the shaitan ever overpowers us, immediately turn back to Allah Azza wa Jal and make tawbah and do something good. There was a great tabi'i rahimahullah. His name was Hammad ibn Salima rahimahullah. And remember how we were saying, when a person commits a sin, immediately follow it up with a good action. Hammad ibn Salima rahimahullah, he was a person that in his young days, when he was growing up, he was a young man, he was studying. He had this issue that he would sometimes misuse his tongue. And he would talk about people. And afterwards he would say, Ya Allah, I wasn't thinking. What did I do? I gossiped. Ya Allah, please forgive me. So eventually he asked some of the ulama in his area, what should he do? And he thought about it to himself. How can I get rid of this evil disease? This evil habit of gossip? So what did he do? He made this habit upon himself. He took this oath upon himself that if I ever misuse my tongue, then one day fast is mandatory upon me. So what happened? Anytime he would misuse his tongue, Ya Allah, now one day I have to fast. So he would fast. Next time it would happen again. Oh, I misused my tongue, I have to fast again. He continued like this for many years. And eventually what did he say? He said, Ya Allah, I'm a young man, I'm strong. Fasting is not really hard for me. Fasting is easy for me. So it's not really stopping me from committing that sin. Right? Fasting is easy. It's not hard for me. It's not difficult. So it's not really stopping me from committing that sin. So he said, Ya Allah, I change my oath. Next time if I commit this sin, 10 dirham sadaqah. 10 dirhams will go in sadaqah. And he was a person, financially, he had to save his money at that time. So giving those 10 dirhams would have been very difficult upon him. So what did he do? Every time he would misuse his tongue, 10 dirham sadaqah. Again, oh, I messed up, 10 dirham sadaqah. Ya Allah, look at my wallet. The money is going short. I better learn how to control my tongue. So eventually, with due time, he put this punishment on himself. Within due time, he gave up this bad habit of misuse of the tongue. And subhanallah, he said something very beautiful. He said, فَبِحُبِّ الْمَالِ تَرَكْتُ الْغِيبَةِ. He said, by the love of wealth, I was granted the ability to leave this sin of misuse of the tongue. So inshallah, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He blesses one and all and grants us this tawfiq. He grants us this ability to have discipline, respected listeners. Wallahi, if anything you want to be successful in this world, you must have discipline. Some people, they say, I want to be a good Muslim. Can you read some wazifa and blow it on my head? There's no wazifa that somebody's going to blow on your head and suddenly your desires for sin is going to be khatam. There's no such wazifa. Allah made insan to have this test, to have this struggle, that when shaitan comes, you stand firm and you say, Shaitan, this is not the house for you. You're going to get kicked out from here. This is the house of a muttaqi. You're not invited inside of here. This is the house of a person who appreciates Allah's favors on his life. You are not welcome here, O Shaitan. Subhanallah, what do? When the shaitan tempts us, welcome, marhaban, have a seat. Would you like some juice? Do you want some nuql? We invite the shaitan, we listen to his talk, we listen to his temptations. As soon as he comes into your mind, kick him out of your home. Ma'adallah, ma'adallah, I seek Allah's refuge. Oh shaitan, what are you doing here? This is not the home for you. I appreciate Allah, what He's done for me. Allah has given me these eyes. Allah has given me these ears. Allah has given me this body. I'm not going to use it in His disobedience for you. Shaitan, you can find somewhere else. And you shun the shaitan away. This discipline is what is needed. Maulana Thanwi rahmatullah alayh, when he was talking about the importance of giving up sins, what does he say? He says, for a person to be successful in defeating shaitan and giving up sins, you must have this attitude and mentality that I will accept maut. I will accept death. If the urge to sin makes me so uncomfortable that it even leads me to die, I will accept death, but Ya Allah, I will not accept your disobedience. That is when a person will find success. And respected listeners, this month of Ramadan, this is the month where we build this discipline. Because Allah is showing us, if you could leave food and if you could leave water, these are two things human beings cannot survive without this. These are essentials of human life. If you can give up essentials of human life for Allah, then can't you give up sins, which human beings have no need for them to live? Sins only bring calamities and destruction and hardship and difficulties. If you could give up the essentials of life, of course you can give up sins. The month of Ramadan is where Allah is teaching us that and He's showing that. It's like a child, before they ride the bike, what happens? They're on the training wheels. Right? They're on the training wheels, they're riding a little bit, they see, wow, I can actually do this. Then what happens? You remove the training wheels and the child is riding the bike on their own. Ramadan, Allah is putting the training wheels on our bikes to show us, look, you can do this. You have the capability. I have not made anything haram except that it's in the capability of human beings to abstain. So now is the month the training wheels are there. And inshallah, post-Ramadan, that's when the training wheels come off and you will ride your bike in the open, inshallah. And we will resist the temptations of shaitan. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us all tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.